is today. Now, the reason we know exactly where this bridge was, a couple reasons. There are maps from the period, many encompassing the forge, the battlefield, the gardens, and Mount Independence here. So when the bridge was there, they'll show the bridge in these maps, but also show you up on the sonar here. This kind of square shape right there, that is one of the original caissons constructed by these American soldiers underneath of us at the bottom of the lake right now. So the majority of them are still there where they have been since 1777, stretching across the lake here. I say the majority because a few of them closer to the shoreline were removed. Off the point of the peninsula there was another steamboat dock. At the turn of the century, so a few of these caissons were removed. But out at the Champlain Maritime Museum up in Vergennes, Vermont, one of these pieces of the caisson is actually on display, so you can see how they really went together. Speaking of other museums too, if you were to go over to Mount Independence today, there's a lovely museum over there as well with artifacts excavated from the lake and the land on display. It goes into more detail too about who was there, what was going on, and grab for little hiking trails out along the